Ta-da, here we are.
All right, so we left off from getting all our brass semi-ready. So now what's the next step after that?
So we've gone through, it's sized, deprimed, ready to be primed and powder charged and a bullet put on and shot. So every press a little bit different. This one has a primer that slips down in front here and it goes up, put the primer in it. It seats the primer as you go down. We also have our handy dandy lead primer here. Put the primers in here. They feed down through the tunnel and up through the punch there into the brass this way. A little close up on that.
Fancy schmancy.
This is a nice one, nice little hand primer. The progressive press automatically primes as you're going around. Has a primer tube that feeds them down. It automatically primes is one of the steps. So for this, we're going to use the hand primer because it's the simplest and the easiest to use for what we're doing today. We've got some different primers set out and some different powders. Today we're using the Federal small pistol primers here, and we're going to be using CFE pistol by Hydrogen. So we're going to put some primers in there, shake them up a little bit, get them to flip over the right way. That one to flip over the right way. Okay. We close it up. Go down the little tube into their hole there. Point away from yourself when you're priming, so in case it goes off, it doesn't hit you in the face. And I always just check and make sure it's seated nicely, kind of look it over. I really like hand priming because you can feel how much pressure or lack of pressure it's taking. So when you're setting up things like 223, 308, 9mm that has a crimp, you can feel how well you remove the sweating on the brass. So I'm just going to go through and do a handful of these. Grab the reloading block. Like a little easier, nice little reloading block. So we've got our powder funnel set up. This one puts a little bit of bell on the case just to make it easier to load the bullet into. So we're going to come over here and we're going to start our powder measure off. And we're running 5.5 grains of CFE pistol on these 9.115s. So we already have it set up. So we're just going to hit dispense. And it's going to do its thing very slowly. There it goes. The train's going by and shaking the whole building, so that's fun. And I like these type of scales because they're very precise, so you know exactly what you're getting every time. But they are a little bit time consuming. So if you had a thrower or something along those lines, it would go a lot faster. So we're going to run that up and it's belling the case. So we're going to put our powder in there, give it a couple of taps, make sure it's all the way down. Look and make sure all the powder's out. And then now we've got our powder in there. We'll set it over here and we'll go on to do the next one. Bring that back over here. And we'll let that go. And because we have a powder funnel, we're going to cheat a little bit and we're just going to run through and bell these out. And they just put a little bit of bell on there, just enough so the bullet kind of centers itself so you're not fighting the bullet as you go in. When they're not belled, it's a little bit hard and you can scrape some copper off the side, or you can pinch the bullet up in there, ruin the brass. So it just gives it a little bit of leeway. We got our case, so we're going to bring this over here. We're at 5.5. Put the powder in there. And away we go again.
So you said we're using the CFE powder. How do you choose what powder for your load?
There's a lot of different reasons people choose different powders. There's different recoil impulses, different bullets like different powders, different guns like different powders. There's looking over here 'cause I'm trying to find my burn rate chart. So this is a burn rate chart that shows the relative burn rates on the different powders. So when you find a powder in your book that you want to try, so we look in here back to our handy dandy loading manual. And we're loading 115s. So we have all the different powders in here, the different velocities. So like if you're trying to get as much velocity as you can, you may start with the powder pistol because it's running 6.4 to 6.7, but it's giving you that 1200 to 1250 range. You know, if you're trying to save money and use little powder, the tight group, it's only running about 4 grains in there. Bullseye, same thing. So there's lots of different reasons you would, you know, play with different powders or pick different powders. Once you've found the powder you like and the bullet you like, it's always good to stay with those for as long as you can. That way you don't have to spend a bunch of time doing load development and spend more time shooting.
I was reading that there's some people will overload a little bit and compress. Is that common, or is that kind of playing with fire?
You know, it's there's some loads that are what's considered a book load that are compressed. They'll have a star or a C by them in the loading manual. You know, but every gun's a little bit different, and you can always push pressures. As you're doing loading, I always recommend using a chronograph so you can see where you're at. You can look at the back of the case and you can kind of see the primer. If the primer starts to push out, or if you start to see extractor marks or thing around your rim, you're getting too hot. You know, you just always have to be careful when you're doing anything outside of a standard book load because it is an explosive.
Okay. So then once we got everything ready for powder, the next step is put the bullet in, right?
Yep. So these ones are got some prime. They're all primed. We're gonna put the powder in the rest of them, and we're gonna get the bullet seater set up.